Hello and welcome back to the Most Dangerous Podcast. My name is James and I have with me, as usual, Fraser. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, James. Yeah, good. Had a positive week, yeah. It's been all right.
Well, it didn't sound
How
like
about
it before,
yourself?
but
I'm
yeah,
trying my best.
We had a chat off air. It's been a very chaotic week for both of us. But we're not going to go into that here. It's not necessary. We don't want to bore people
I'm
with it.
concentrating on the positives.
Yeah, so we won't go into all that nonsense because I'm sure nobody wants to hear us moaning about it. But what we are going to do this week is we're going to continue our series on the most dangerous flights.
Excellent. What have you got for us this week, James?
Well, in fact, I've not told you, have I, this week? So it's
No.
going to be a bit of a surprise for you. So we're going to dive into one of the most monumentous and controversial events in human history. And it is the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the aircraft that carried the first atomic bomb ever used in war, the Enola Gay. Have you heard of Enola Gay before? Are you laughing at the word gay?
Yeah.
It's very childish.
It was running through my head today that, like, this probably can't go on, but, like, when we were young, everything was gay, wasn't it? It was gay.
Dead gay.
And it was just thrown about, and I don't think it even had anything to do with sexuality or homophobia or anything. It was just something with shit. It was gay.
Yeah, we'll find out why the plane was called Enola Gay shortly. But yeah, that's the reason I picked this, because I do feel it is perhaps one of the most dangerous flights in the history of humankind.
I'm impressed with your choice. That's ingenious to think of, because to think of the flight that caused obviously those millions of deaths.
Absolutely, and VE Day, was that yesterday? 8th of May. It was the 80th anniversary of victory in Europe. Yeah. I think it was yesterday. So I kind of sort of wanted to put something in sort of that sort of context. So it's a story of science, war, moral reckoning, and the dawn of the nuclear age. It's a story of a single mission that changed the world forever. So, as mentioned, victory in Europe was on the 8th of May, 1940. Let me just double check that.
In fact, it was. And do you know why? I was on the phone to the Inland Revenue and they cut me off to do their 2-minute silence.
To do the 2-minute silence, yeah. I was right. Victory in Europe was on the 8th of May, 1945. So literally 80 years ago yesterday. So before then, as most people know, World War II had raged for 6 years. And on the 8th of May, Germany surrendered. However, this was not the end of the Second World War, because in the Pacific, the United States and Japan remained in a brutal and bloody conflict. So if you think about the Pacific, is it called the Pacific Rim, with all those little islands that kind of go like Indonesia and stuff up to Japan? So there's loads of little skirmishes around there, and every island that the US gained or the Japanese gained, it came at a high cost. Tens of thousands of people were dying just through these little skirmishes everywhere. Japan was still fighting this war, despite the fact that Germany had surrendered and the Allies had won in Europe. So the American military planners estimated that a full-scale invasion of Japan could result in up to 1 million American casualties, and possibly even more Japanese as well. So, meanwhile, deep in the deserts of New Mexico, the United States and the Allied forces have been working on a secret project that could potentially change everything, and that project was called the Manhattan Project. Now, you've probably heard of the Manhattan Project before.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into detail about the Manhattan Project. If you haven't heard of the Manhattan Project, go and watch the film Oppenheimer, because that's essentially about that. It's the race between the Allied forces and the Allied, what they called, the axis of evil. It's a race between those two factions of the war to create an atomic bomb.
Can I ask a slightly related question? I've always wondered this. Call of Duty, and when it used to be Medal of Honor, you used to play that, and you would be the American guy, sometimes the British guy, and you'd go and you'd be shooting the Germans and stuff like that. When that game goes on sale, does it go on sale in Germany? And if so,
I think so. Yeah.
are they still the American guy shooting the Germans?
Yeah. I think
that
so.
must
because
be a bit.
I think there's a kind of sort of common understanding that the Nazis were mass murdering fuckheads.
Well,
and,
yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, well, that's kind of a dark sort of. It's a dark history.
Yeah.
So it's okay to kill Nazis.
Yeah, it wasn't Germany, was it? It was the Nazis that forced the German soldiers to fight for them. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they've got this Manhattan Project. If you've seen the film, I tried to watch it. It's a really hard watch, isn't it?
I've had a couple of goes. Yeah.
I mean, I might watch it again just to see if I can sort of understand it a bit better.
Yeah.
But essentially, the United States and the Allied forces did win that race, and they created the first atomic bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've got a quote here. I'll try and play it, but it might be worth if I just send it to you, and you can perhaps clip it into the
I'll do that
video. So I'll see if I can get it played. And this is Robert Oppenheimer's quote after he created the first. Well, he was the director of the Manhattan Project, so he didn't do it himself. He was like a big part of it. Let's see if I can get this playing.
We knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
So that's Robert Oppenheimer speaking about his feelings as when he first set off that atomic bomb, basically referring to, I think it was a Hindu scripture saying, we felt like, we have become death.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the atomic bomb had largely been theory before that actually happened. And at that point, theory became reality.
It's interesting. It's something that fascinates me and horrifies me at the same time.
Yes, and I think you're right. I think we will go on to talk about this shortly.
Yeah. I read, and again, this may step on your toes, that they made the judgment that to kill these people with the atomic bomb will probably end it at less cost of life than to carry on fighting.
Yeah,
and that was their justification.
Let's not get... Whoa, hang on.
Thanks for listening. That was the most dangerous podcast.
There was a point to this.
Right, go.
All right, okay. So the aircraft itself, then, the Enola Gay, no sniggering. The aircraft chosen for this unprecedented mission was a B-29 Super Fortress.
Right.
And it was called Enola... Well, they named it Enola Gay. And it was named by the pilot, Colonel Paul Tibbets, after his mother.
Ah, okay.
So Tibbets was handpicked to command the 509th Composite Group, a special unit formed solely to deliver nuclear weapons. So if we just briefly talk about the crew, there was 12 men in total. I don't have them all listed here, but they are on Wikipedia if you want to check it out. They were all hand-selected, and they all the crew that were briefed only partially knew the nature of the mission.
Right.
So they kind of had an idea they're going to drop a big bomb on Japan, but they didn't really know why or the ins and outs and stuff like that. So perhaps the most notable crew, although apologies to the other guys that were on the flight, we've got Captain Theodore Dutch Van Kirk, so he was the navigator. Major Tom Ferriby, he was the bombardier, and Sergeant George Caron, he was the tail gunner. And if you look up photographs of the incident, I think it was Hiroshima was the first bomb. This Sergeant George Caron, He was the one that took the photo. So there's one photo of when the bomb goes off above or hits Hiroshima, and he took the photo.
Right.
So in the early hours of August the 6th, 1945, the Enola Gay took off from Tinian Island in the Pacific. Now I had a look on Google Maps. It looks like absolutely. I mean, I think it's largely a military base, but it looks like paradise. To be fair, there is a town there, a city, where people live. But then there's like the photo. You know, when you go on Google and like you kind of sort of like Google Maps, and like you can sort of click on things. It's like a beach. Yeah, it's like people have uploaded photos. So there's like loads of those there with like people having a good time, and then in the background there's like sort of American soldiers and stuff. Like yeah. So I think largely it's the military base, but it's one of those small islands in that Pacific Rim area.
They've got one called Guam that's an American island and similar sort of area, and it is like one side's like, you know, like the beach, the film, you know, it's like tropical paradise. Yeah. The other side's just a big airport, military base.
Yeah, it's a similar sort of setup, I think. Yeah, so it's quite a distance from Japan. I haven't got the exact distance, but I think it's a good sort of hour or two a flight through the Pacific. Excuse me.
So they'll have probably taken the bomb there on a ship.
I would have thought so. Yeah, and then loaded it on the plane.
Yeah. Imagine that though. Wavy ocean.
Don't sneeze.
Someone holding it. Don't let it fall over.
I think it was big, quite big.
Yeah. I've seen it. It's like a big ball almost within like a metal.
I think so. In the film,
it's not like a pointy bomb, is it? It's like
in the film it looks more like a mine. You know, like a There's sea mines that you see in sort of war films, like a big sort of cylinder with sort of spiky bits coming out of it. Yeah. But I guess that's what it was like. So yeah, it would have been shipped across, and then they loaded it up onto the plane. So, as you know, the destination of the flight was Hiroshima, a city in Japan with over 300,000 people. It did have military value, but the city was also largely untouched by previous bombings. So the idea was, well, this will truly demonstrate how powerful this bomb is.
Yeah.
You know,
take out a city.
It's a statement to say, look, you know, if you fuck around with us, this is the first thing that happens. If you do it again, then something else is going to happen. You know, so rather than take out a city that's already been flattened by bombing, you take out one that's not been touched.
Was there a definite? That was the logic on why they picked.
From what I understand,
Nagasaki,
yeah. It was a statement, basically.
There was no particular military base or anything there, or
I think it had like strategic value.
Yeah.
But also, there's probably, I don't know for certain, but I imagine there were a couple of sites where they thought, okay, well, this has value, blah, blah, blah. However, this has largely been untouched, and if we drop it on this, people will go, fucking hell, that's some serious power, like.
Yeah.
So at 8:15 a.m. on the 6th of August, 1945, from 31,000 feet, the bomb, which they nicknamed Little Boy, was released. 43 seconds later, it detonated. You do like a sound effect there.
Shit.
A flash brighter than the sun, a fireball reaching temperatures of millions of degrees, buildings levelled, and lives erased in an instant. It's estimated that 70,000 people died immediately, and by the end of the year, the death toll would rise to 140,000. Of course, the world didn't know what to make of it at first. Hiroshima was completely flattened, but the Japanese government still didn't surrender at this point. 3 days later, a second bomb. This one was a plutonium device, which they called the Fat Man. This was dropped on Nagasaki, but this wasn't done. The bomb didn't drop from Enola Gay. This was another B-29 called Boxcar, with a different crew as well. So it was a separate mission. But nevertheless, a second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. Another 40,000 estimated people died instantly, and again tens of thousands more in the aftermath. And then, on the 15th of August, Japan announced its surrender. The atomic bomb, essentially, had ended World War II. But then, like you said before, at what cost?
Yeah. See, like, war's war, and soldiers fight and they kill each other. And I know what this, what we mentioned before, that soldiers would go in, they'd fight, and there'd be thousands and thousands of deaths. But these are like, women, children, people out getting their shopping, going to work and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that
it's innocent people
that aren't involved in it. And you've got to think that, I know your order's your order, but being the person that pushes that out or presses the button.
Well, funny you should
Off
mention
you go.
that, but we'll come on to that very briefly, actually.
It must be tough.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, it's been debated ever since. Was it actually necessary to drop this bomb? Would it to end the war quickly, or was it actually a demonstration to the Soviet Union to show, what power we've got? We've got an atomic bomb. Don't mess with us. Was it a status? I mean, arguably, was it a war crime to murder millions of innocent? Well, not millions. Apologies. Hundreds of thousands of innocent people.
Yeah, I think it was.
Potentially, yeah, but it did end the war, though.
But could they not have potentially picked an island that was barely inhabited near, or a part of Japan that is just woodlands, and dropped one and gone, see that big fucking thing there? There's another one coming for your city if you don't surrender.
I guess so, but then given the fact that Japan didn't surrender in the first instance, would suggest that would have had no impact whatsoever.
Yeah. They only had 3 days, though, between the two bombs.
Well, yeah, that's true.
It's not, they might have got to the end of the week and gone, yeah, shit,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how the politics was working back then. President Harry Truman at the time said the goal was actually to save lives, Americans and Japanese, both sets. But many scientists who helped to build the bomb, including some on the Manhattan Project, later expressed deep regret. So this is again from Robert Oppenheimer. He said, in some sort of crude sense, with no vulgarity, no humour, no overstatement, can quite extinguish, the physicists have known sin. So obviously he wasn't too happy about how the bomb was used. Yeah. And it sounds like the people who were on the Manhattan Project, a large part of them were thinking, well, this isn't what we were doing it for, potentially. Now, the captain of the Enola Gay, Colonel Tibbets, for his part, he never expressed any regret. He believed the mission saved lives and ended the war. In 2003, at the age of 87, he said, I sleep clearly every night. But for many survivors, known as the Hibekashua, I hope I've got that right, the trauma endured. Obviously, the radiation sickness, the lifelong health effects and impacts, and then obviously the memories of loved ones being lost in the incident.
You'd want to be at the centre, wouldn't you? Because you just know it's like that Titanic sub. It would happen so quick you wouldn't even know it had happened.
Just be instant.
Yeah.
So the question is, what happened to the Enola Gay? It was actually preserved by the Smithsonian Institute. I'd never heard of Smithsonian until I got Sky. Because they've got a Smithsonian channel. Didn't even know what it was.
That's have you ever watched Night at the Museum, the film?
Oh yeah.
Isn't they go to the Smithsonian in I think it's the second one. Right. And they've got Amelia Earhart in it and stuff like that. I'm sure that's when they go to
some American sort of institution, I guess, to do with history and stuff. But yeah, it's a good channel.
There's a big Smithsonian museum, and I think in there it's not just a museum. There's a big place where there's stuff in crates that's just not on display, like the Ark of the Covenant and stuff.
Oh, really? Like Indiana Jones style, yeah. So it was preserved by the Smithsonian Institute, but obviously not without controversy. It was first displayed in the 1990s, and the plan was to highlight the human toil, but it did spark a debate between veterans and historians and peace advocates, naturally. Today, the aircraft is on permanent display at the Stephen F. Udvar Hazy Center in Virginia. It's part of the National Air and Space Museum. It stands as a powerful, diverse symbol, a reminder of both scientific achievement and human devastation.
Wow. Have you been to the Science Museum in Manchester? The not the Science and Technology Museum of Science
Yeah, I think so. I will have done. I've been
It's
here
like
for
big,
15 years.
There was a big place full of planes next to it that was part of it, but it was like a separate building.
Right.
It's an incredible museum. But the last time I went there, I took Teddy and I promised him we wanted to see planes. And I took him to a place in Woodford, a little plane museum, but it was shut on a Thursday. So I took him to the Science and Industry Museum, see all the planes there, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're refurbishing." So that bit's shut. So I took him to Manchester Airport.
There's a plane.
There's one.
Fair play though. That's a mission of a day, though, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
To go from central Manchester to the airport is about 6 miles.
Yeah.
And then
bear in mind, I started in Ellesmere Port to Woodford.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to look at planes.
So you've done him good there.
Yeah. But no, that Science and Industry Museum, apparently the planes aren't coming back there. They're doing another display somewhere else. But there's proper World War II planes. Real
I think I've seen Spitfires and stuff. Yeah, hanging from the rafters and that. Yeah,
it's good.
I've seen that one. I did the same thing happened to me with my daughter. She was doing the Egyptians in primary school years ago. A Manchester museum has a big Egyptian display or whatever. What do they call it? It's like a
exhibition.
That's it. And I took her down there. Got to the museum. Oh no, it's been refurbed. It's not open for the next 3 years.
Shit.
Oh right, okay. That's not really any good for us because she's not going to be doing the Egyptians in the next 3 years.
Yeah, she'll be grown up by then.
Yeah. So exactly the same thing happened.
There we go. We've padded that a little bit.
I know. This is literally it, though. This is literally it.
Go for
it. So, to conclude then, I guess, a very short and sweet episode this week. Like we mentioned, though, I have had a lot going on. So that's the story of the Enola Gay. So it's a story of contradiction, really, I believe, because it's a triumph of engineering, a feat of courage, but then a deeply haunting chapter of human history. I suppose I can ask you, what is the cost of peace? Does the end ever justify the means?
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
Just to play devil's advocate, then you just let war just carry on endlessly.
It's. I don't think it never does, though, does it? I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable with civilians just getting blitzed.
But then if you remember at the start, there were and like I say, this isn't my view at all. I'm just literally trying to just.
I understand their justification in it, but
the intelligence from the USA was that if we carry on doing this and we invade Japan, a ground force, it's going to be millions of casualties.
Yeah.
Whereas this, okay, it's not great, but it's 200,000. So. I don't think this is right. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
To drop a bomb like this on civilians is absolutely outrageous. But then I don't know what the alternative was either. Do you know what I mean? And
did they need to invade Japan?
But again, there must have been a reason. Does anyone need to start a war?
At the end of the day, it's you go back and you defend America. You defend American land if they're invading.
But the Japanese dropped bombs on Pearl Harbor, didn't they?
Yeah.
So they're a bit pissed off about that. So they thought, fuck it, we'll just fucking kill everyone.
I'm sure we've talked about in this podcast. Wasn't there a plan where the Japanese were actually taking a huge bomb to America? Didn't they have a sub and they were going to blow up one of the biggest cities in America and they aborted and turned around, and then Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened.
Oh, really? We'll have to go back and maybe...
It was when we did... Do you remember I did that Japanese war horrible place where they did all the testing?
Oh, yeah. The lab.
In that episode, I'm sure that it did avert. The Japanese were on their way to blow up. I think they were going for like Chicago or somewhere like that.
Right, so there you go. Then. So that's the reason.
City.
Well, that's a potential reason. If it's not us, then it's them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And like,
but they aborted it, and then the Americans dropped the bombs, and then it ended things.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Well, I don't think it is a difficult one.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think anything like this should happen to civilians, but
But then
it happened, and it's an awful thing.
You could argue that the Japanese military, they were responsible for it because they could have
surrendered.
Yeah, surrendered.
But then that's not what you want to do, is it? If you're a commander or a leader of a nation, go, oh, well, we'll just surrender because they might do this.
I feel like, though, if you had a couple of these bombs knocking about, drop one nearby and say, look what that's just done to that forest over there. Right? The next one's landing on a city.
Yeah, it's quite a profound question, particularly given the world that we're in at the moment. You know, we've got conflict in Russia, Ukraine, we've got Gaza, Israel, and then recently Pakistan and India, who are both nuclear powers. So
imagine if you look at all the people that are dying in Russia and Ukraine, if someone said to you, do you know what? If you press this button, it'll wipe out a district of Moscow, but the war will finish.
Oh, yeah. And I suppose that's the questions that were asked at the time.
Yeah.
You know, if you just do this, if you kill, murder 200,000 people, no more people will die.
Yeah.
That'll be the end of it.
Peace. Murder 200,000 people and you'll have world peace.
World peace.
Yeah.
Well, I don't get paid enough to make these decisions. So.
Could you pick the people, though? Right,
I want everyone dropping a bomb.
Everyone over 80 that's terminally ill, you know.
Imagine that. But that's pretty... Because that is like Hitler, come into this camp here. Look, just while we drop this bomb on you.
Here's a really depressing thing to leave us with. I read this thing that we're all on a conveyor belt. And at the end, people are dropping off and dying, but you don't know where you are in that conveyor belt.
Yeah, there you go. Could be in the middle. Could be at the end. Could be at the back. Who knows? Yeah. We'll soon find out.
I know.
All right. Very short episode this week. I do apologise. Like I mentioned, I've got a lot going on. I've had a lot going on this week, so I didn't have that much time to prepare. But nevertheless, that's been the Most Dangerous Podcast. And that was the story of Enola Gay.
Thanks, James.
Stop stickering.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, we'll speak to you next week. Genius. Yeah, well done. I thought it was
a genius.
Good find, and I enjoyed it because you hear so much about it. But yeah, there's little bits there that I didn't know. So
now you know. I think that'll make a great sort of pub quiz question.
Yeah. What
was the name of the plane that dropped the bomb on Hiroshima in 1945? Yeah. So there you go, kids.
Gay. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Now you know.
Excellent. Thanks very much, James. We'll see you next week. And I've still to come up with one. I've got 3. I just need to pick one, to be honest.
3? All right.
Yeah, I've got three that I'm juggling with, but I've got to pick a good one out of them.
Look forward to it.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Speak soon. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Bye.